I'm Matt Guichard, and this is No Holds Barred. In this episode, we're going to talk about domestic violence. We have 4 special guests. We're going to have a conversation about domestic violence and the challenges faced by not just our 4 special guests, but anyone who's ever experienced domestic violence. So Nicolette, I didn't ask you what it was. I can probably guess 10 things, and that's why I call it an unfair question, simply because there's no one answer, but it is something that I often ask when I do that. People, wait, if you had a magic wand, what's the one thing you could do?
Well, I apologize in advance because I'm still in the middle of my custody case, as well as 3 other court cases with my child's father, which is very contentious.
Mhm.
And like you brought up earlier, I am in pro per, and he's from a multi-million-dollar family. His family owns a town in the county that I reside in, so they have very, very important connections. And I continue to lose in court despite the fact that I have evidence off my home security system of him assaulting me and recordings of him threatening my life and admitting it to it. Yet the system does not care. They don't care about any abuse that he has inflicted towards me or my children. They said, he hasn't abused your child. There's not a problem here. You have no reason to say he shouldn't be around your child. So I don't understand why abusers are allowed to hire these high-priced attorneys and continue to manipulate and abuse children and victims through the court system, and the court system is supporting them. Like, I've been a mother for 28 years. I have no record. He has a record. He's been arrested multiple times. He put a woman in the hospital. Why am I, despite the fact that I don't have money, why do I have to prove myself? That makes no sense, because he's in there with his high-priced attorneys and I'm by myself, and his attorney is twisting the facts, and their connections are twisting the facts when the evidence is there. That's what bothers me. I don't feel abusers should have custody of a child, whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse. Why?
Yeah.
All you're doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I can't answer it, and I so feel for you in that situation. Hard for me to say I feel for you since I've never been through that, but I certainly was part of the system for a long time as a prosecutor, seeing and knowing that kind of thing. Certainly talking to my daughter, being involved in the things that I do now in officer-involved death cases and seeing how much domestic violence. The concern I have with you is a concern that so many people talk about, is that in the system, it's rigged on behalf of people that can afford an attorney. It does. And it's a frustrating thing. Let me just ask you, what county, we don't have to talk about people or anything, what county is your case in?
Sacramento.
Sacramento, okay. Yeah, I ran a big law firm I was in the Wells Fargo building, so I was up in Sacramento, know it well, went to law school in Sacramento, as a matter of fact, so I know it well. Your story isn't just Sacramento County. I hear this so often from so many people that, they're not listening to me, they're not, and I do appreciate how the system, people can feel that they were victimized before, and now they're going through the process, and they're victimized in the process. And family law lawyers are very expensive, and it's a long process that, in my view, shouldn't be anywhere near as expensive as it is. And I often tell people, I don't do family law, but tell me, how long you been married? Where do you work? Do you own a home? How many kids do you have? You could give me about 8 or 10 facts, and I can tell you how it's going to turn out, at least on a financial, at the very end. So whether you're going to spend $200,000 to get to that end, or you're going to spend $20,000 to get to that end, I can tell you pretty much where the result is going to be, given all things being equal. You put one side in pro per and one side represented with a lot of money, it can be a long and costly process and very unsatisfying for the person who is in pro per. Yeah, Caitlin.
I just want to add that I 100% agree with that one. I thought you were supposed to have an attorney when I first went in. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. My parents helped me because I was 22 and not sure what to do at the time and wanted to protect my daughter. And I probably paid more than most divorces would have paid, and I wasn't even married. And then on top of that, at the end of it all, I ended up being pro se or pro per on my own, even did my own appeal through the Third Circuit Court. And I figured that out on my own. It was the worst trauma I've ever been through, was legally being abused. I would have rather just been told before, like, don't go file this restraining order. It's going to be the worst situation of your entire life. Like, it's not even worth it. Like, that's how I felt. I felt so defeated after it all that I was like, why am I even here doing this? What was the point of this at that time?
You know, I often tell people we have this well-defined legal system, and it makes sense. I do a lot of business litigation. I do a lot of really big cases, fortunately, that don't involve these kinds of things, but I'm so familiar with it. But it's a well-defined system if people are properly represented. And it's a complicated system and difficult for some lawyers. People often say there are too many lawyers, and I say, well, there are not too many good lawyers. There's a limited number of people in areas that are really good. And Sacramento has some very good lawyers, and in a number of areas, but it's very difficult. I certainly wouldn't want to go in not being a lawyer in some situation in pro per and having somebody else represented, and now what do I do? And the judge is comfortable. You know, Nicola, you probably see in there, well, the judge is comfortable and knows that lawyer, so they have this little kind of banter, and you're kind of thinking, well, you didn't banter with me. Wait a minute. They probably saw each other down at the Sutter Club. They, belong. They're things that you just go, wait a minute. So I'm uncomfortable here anyway, much less feeling that I'm not being listened to. We go back to Sarah. I'm not being listened to, not just by the policeman that comes to the door, but anyone along the line. And I'm kind of singing in the dark. It's interesting. These family law and domestic violence are so intertwined. I mean, we kind of started out with this being domestic violence, and I think that is a good focus. But I think certainly legislature, everybody needs to know that they are so intertwined, and judges in the family law courts and deal with domestic violence because they hear it. But so often, perhaps it's that they hear it so often that it's just kind of, this is just one more case. I will tell you, and it's not a funny stat, but it's a stat. I headed the homicide team. I tried a whole bunch of homicides, gang cases and all that. The only shootings, the only stabbings, anything we had in the main courthouse in Contra Costa County involved family law. Not the gangbangers. Nope, they didn't shoot people out in the street. And I don't even remember, maybe a year or so in Contra Costa County, a fight, a family law case, and out in the street, somebody ran over somebody and then drove to the Benicia Bridge and jumped off. That was a family law case.
I remember that.
So the incredible emotion, the incredible, just the craziness that can happen. And again, I will say, and I'm not sugarcoating it, it's recognized. There's got to be a frustration. It's recognized by the courts, by the police, by the legislature, because we have domestic violence units. We're dedicated, but it seems I'm hearing the same thing over and over, and I bet the frustration is, yes, recognize it, but we're nowhere close to solving the problem. And I think I'm having trouble tonight getting my hands around, because it's so big. When I initially talked about with Dawn, okay, putting together something, because it's not fair that people can't look into some public document and find out about abusers. We're in family law. People are in pro per. We're doing restraining orders, and we're on the other side of the restraining order when we're the abused ones. I mean, all these incredible issues that are part of this, I call it fraught system of family law and domestic violence, and I'm gonna put them together because I think they belong together, at recognizing that that's training for judges, certainly. The judge in your case, and Caitlin talking about it, and certainly when Sarah talks about it, and goodness, Nicolette going to court and feeling like, why am I coming here? I'm just getting beat up, and it seems like they file all these crazy motions, and I lose them because I just tell the truth, and it doesn't seem like it works for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it works for me. So I have a lot of research I need to do, and it's, I can do it because I kind of know where to look, and I know the people, and I have a little bit of a background, but I don't want to, I'm certainly not an expert in this by any stretch of the imagination. I do know I've represented some women in situations where they actually went into shelters, and we have a shelter in Contra Costa County for people that the wife and the kids are in shelters to protect, but that's certainly not a long-term solution, but and that's been recognized for a long, long time as trying to protect people, but clearly we're not doing it.
And it's really it's horrible too, Matt, is that when it comes to those shelters in family court where it's all connected, is that the courts, specifically the judges, depending on who your judge is, they'll look down on mothers for that. They'll say that it's an unstable environment for the children because they have nowhere else to go. And so they'll look to the abuser, and it's in most cases father. I know there's some mothers as well who are abusers. But they'll try to temporarily put the children with the father, even though he has been, seen as being the abuser. They have evidence of him being abusive. They just think it's a better environment because they don't think that domestic violence shelters are stable for children. And so they get ridiculed for taking their children to shelters. I had a judge who did the same thing. Well, do you think that's a stable place to take the child? I was like, I don't know where else you would like me to take them. I can't take her to your house. So I don't know where else you would like me to go. And it was really defeating, especially, I could say especially because I was young as well, and I didn't know much about what was going on. I don't think anyone really knows the system until they're put into it for the first time, that you're not even sure what to say, what to do, what's right, what's wrong. You go in there transparent and honest, and you're still ridiculed for that as well. So it's really hard. It goes back to what Sarah was saying with the believing. Like you get defeated.
I suspect, I totally understand. I suspect that most people who've never been through it, and thankfully a whole bunch haven't, but a whole bunch have, most people who've never been through it probably couldn't conceive that it would be as bad as what you have explained. So and the courts, it's always been, even when I was in the district attorney's office, is to reunite the children with their parents. So you often see in child, protective services, the child is pulled out, has been abused, pulled out for a period of time, and then you hear after a period of time they're put back with the abused parent and the child dies or whatever. How many times do we hear that? So it's very frustrating. When I talked to Dawn about this, I said, I don't want to create just out of my mouth just a session of complaining about it. What I want to do is have a discussion about These are real issues. These are real problems. These are real people who've been involved. And let's take from this some positives about, okay, these things need to be addressed, and let's address them. So people give lip service to things all the time, and they have just wonderful conversations, but that's where it kind of ends. And I think part of this discussion tonight is let's put our heads together again, and I know some people in the legislature. I used to be up in SAC and at law school involved with that. I certainly know people now, and I do think that finding a committee and getting in front of them and saying, just at base rock, let's get kind of a Megan's list for restraining orders. Let's go, Nicolette, let's get there. Then let's talk about what resources can we get for people who are not represented and these whole issues. And then certainly training for all the way from judges all the way down. No, I know you're judge, you've got 30 cases and you've got all this, but guess what? These are real human beings, and you need to take a minute and don't say, this is all I can do and here's the piece of paper. If you have to eat into the lunch hour or have people back at 1:30, you need to do that, because that's just how it has to go. And to Sarah's thing is, people need to listen. People need to listen, because you don't learn unless you listen and find out what is the problem. So, okay, so everybody's assignment is to, when it's fresh in your mind over the next couple of days, just take out that piece of paper or that computer and write down, here are the 20 issues that we need to address, and here's what we need to do, and let's talk about them. Let's communicate. You can email me. I don't put this out because people do it all the time, and so, but I don't know, if you looked at my webpage, I think you could probably, has anyone looked at it so you know how to get a hold of me?
Yes.
So if you do, yeah, just shoot me an email right away and say, hey, let's have a chat.
They can get it from me.
Okay, they can get it from Don. So anyway, and but let's keep this going. I really do think it's important that we do this and have another one of these discussions, so that this is real stuff. This is, we could take this and take it to somebody in the legislature and say, hey, look, here's a discussion that we recently had, and here's some of the issues. And I'll bet some of the people would just be, I can't believe it works like that. Well, yeah, it does. Nicolette?
I wanted to ask you a question and touch base on something that I've met with a few attorneys. I take as many free consultations as I can get, and if I can afford a consultation, of course, I pay for it since I am in pro per. And the consensus of what I've gotten is they've told me, do not speak out about your case. Do not talk about it in any way, because the system will not like it, especially because you're not represented. And they will use you speaking out on it to take custody away from you, even though I am the one that holds the restraining order on the person who assaulted me. And I'm the one with all the evidence. And for the last 2 years, because I started aretheyabusive.org 2 years ago, I have been immensely afraid of losing my child due to speaking up on what is going on in our court cases. And I feel that that's unfair, because I'm being told that I need to be silent about what is going on in the system that I'm in. Otherwise, they're going to silence me by taking my child from me.
Yeah, well, I don't want to step on the toes of anyone else who's spoken to you, because I don't know exactly precisely what's going on. I will say that I often tell people, you post on Facebook all the time, you do all these things, and my advice is don't do that during the time of this litigation, because the other side oftentimes, say in personal injury cases, will, wait a minute, that person's doing just fine. Look, they went to their kid's soccer game. Just a lot of personal information. it's funny, jury selection nowadays, people go in and they go on Facebook in big civil cases and they look people up. They go on, they look up, and so they can know so much about you. And so I don't know if that's what they're telling you, or if they're telling you don't talk specifically about your case or broadcast it anywhere because they'll take your children. I don't know how they possibly could take your children by you saying something truthful in advocating for yourself. I just, that's inconceivable to me.
That's what they said. They said, do not talk about what has gone on in your case, which is against you, which is not right since you have all this evidence, because there are no laws in family court. They make up the laws as they go. And that really concerns me, especially as a mother for 28 years. And I don't know what to do. What is being done to me and hundreds of thousands of other parents is not right. It's unfair. And I mean, I'm trying to protect myself and my child. And I want to protect the public by giving them a tool to use to find out if someone has domestic violence in their history. And I feel that the only way that I can adequately present that is by discussing my personal experience. And unfortunately, I'm still in the court system with that experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I say, this was, I don't see it, I don't get it, but I don't know all the facts. I do, I don't think you've spoken about your case any more than saying I'm in court and I'm in pro per and I seem to be losing, and I'm a good mom and I'm the one who's being abused, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But that's just me, because I'm thinking in my brain about how you could possibly be prejudicing yourself or anyone else by just saying, I'm frustrated. The system is frustrating to me. I can't afford to hire a lawyer, and here I am doing the best I can. And why should I? Why should I be blamed for that, much less anything else? So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's. But I think it's the caution of lawyers. It's always cautious. Don't say anything. Nope, don't say anything. And in some cases, that's certainly good advice. In some cases, it may just be nothing more than just an opinion that, so I.
I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you, Matt, for having us. And yeah, it was a pleasure to have this wonderful discussion this evening, and I will definitely follow up.
Yeah, I'm really pleased we did this, and because I think this is but I just want to say this is just a start. So let's make sure, let's all promise, have some discussions and script a few things out next time, just about some of these areas that we've looked into, and I'll look into it all. And so everybody has a little bit of homework, and let's just let's see, because I think let's talk about next time a little more about, okay, what can we do to fix things? Because I think this was groundbreaking, kind of say, here are the problems that we've had, here's what's going on. That was a little bit of my tough question at the end, a little unfair, is asking each person, because there's not one thing, that each one of you would like 10 things, and that still might not make it perfect with the magic wand. But let's think about, okay, what's our next step, and is it the legislature? What can be done? What do you think?
Thank you.
Fair enough?
That would be great. Yes.
Yep.
Are all of you in
Thank you.
Sacramento
Sounds like a
County?
plan. Yes. No, I'm in Sonoma County.
Oh, know it well, Sonoma County. Okay, great meeting all of you. Have a good evening, and
Thank you,
we'll
Matt.
prevail. Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Thank you, Nikki.
Okay.
Thank you for doing
Bye-bye.
this. Thank you for bringing
Matt.
us all
Thank
together.
You so much.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
If you found this information about domestic violence interesting and helpful, stay tuned for our next episode of No Holds Barred.